Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this fans Q&A event, as it's been styled on the website. As a supporter myself, I'd like to applaud the club and especially the panel members for embracing modern technology in order to hold this session, because it enables supporters to continue to have their voices heard despite all the current challenges. The members of the panel, I'm sure, are all very well known to you, but perhaps I could quickly introduce them individually so that all attendees are completely clear who's who, and at the same time we can make sure that they can be heard and that they're not muted. So first of all, Rosemary Johnson, Chairman of Working Football Club.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's lovely to see all your names or however else you're showing yourselves.
Thank you, Rosemary. John Katz, Director of Working Football Club.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for being here. Looking forward to starting some dialogue. Real excited.
And where are you, John?
I am at Segra Park in beautiful Columbia, South Carolina.
Excellent. And you were telling us the weather's a bit better than ours.
Just a bit.
Just a bit. Good. Next, the inimitable Douse, who I'm describing today as Daredevil wing walker and team manager.
Oh, that'll be right. No, I was all right. And I don't know how many's on here, David, but just ask what they want. Any question goes. I'm not bothered. Just ask.
I've got the questions here.
No problem at all.
Right. George Burnett, who's the board member who has been nominated by the Cards Trust for that role.
Hello, everybody. Good afternoon.
George has by far the best. George has by far the best background anyone has ever had on a Zoom call.
That's mainly to hide the fact that my study is disgraceful.
And finally, but not whatever it is, Rupert Phillips, Chairman of the Cards Trust.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining this quite unique event, and I hope everyone gets some benefit from it.
Excellent. In which case, without further ado, let's kick off. I'll ask the questions, all of which have been submitted by supporters. Please be advised, panel members, that I didn't choose who answers which question. Don't shoot the messenger, in other words. First question from Simon Bassett goes to John, who's come on the screen anyway, fortunately, and it reads, putting aside the monetary investment, which is of course very welcome, what would you and your colleagues be bringing to the club other than your obvious enthusiasm? And I like this bit particularly, what changes will fans see on a match day?
I could go on for about an hour on this one. So, you know, my background has been in sport. I've been in American baseball for, I guess we could call it American baseball, though I guess a few other people play it. But I've been doing this for about 30 years. I've been in charge of teams since the late 90s. And, you know, to me, it all starts with the fan experience, understanding that we don't know everything. And understanding this is a great reason for this panel is to find out some of the things that are important to each of you and helping make decisions that, you know, are both good for the supporters and good for the business. You know, our track record, you know, between my partner, Drew, and myself, we either operate or invest in a total of 6 teams in the United States. So we've got a broad base of experience, you know, taking things to the next level, working on projects, working within the budgets that we're provided with, but then at the same time, making sure that, you know, the most important thing, you know, as we look towards our future is to make sure that we can be a self-sustaining football club. To do that, it takes a lot of creativity. It takes a lot of steps that we haven't taken before. Those can include anything from, you know, obviously the kit deal was really a big part of it because, you know, whether it was Puma or Adidas, it's a big raise in the brand profile. And you'll hear that a lot because, again, you know, Woking Football Club, if we go back just as recently as the 90s, was the biggest non-league club in the country. And we want to position ourselves again that we will return to that glory and ultimately fight for a spot in the football league. So for us, experience, passion are a big part of it, but really it's kind of the institutional knowledge of how to make sure that we're getting the best out of, not only our staff, but also, I mean, certainly be remiss in not saying how important our volunteers are to the operation that we run, because, again, you look at, all the things that we can do. None of that happens without the volunteers that give of their time to help the process along. So very much appreciative for that. As far as what changes fans will see on a match day, we've been working on different concepts from expanding the fan zone. Actually, I keep looking at the current fan zone and going, wow, how can we make this even better? But we're talking about enhancing the food and beverage experience for everybody when they come to the ground. We're talking potentially of expanding the shop. One of the things that I know has been a key frustration point for supporters is, we order stuff from the online shop and it takes forever and a day and then another day to get there. So our partnership with Adidas, which was brokered by Kit Locker, will eliminate a lot of that because they will actually be fulfilling the orders and shipping the orders direct, which allows us to have not only Adidas branded stuff, but also what they term in the retail industry as white label. So white label products may not have the 3 stripes on it, but it comes in with a very wide range of affordable and then premium products. So that's another experience thing on the match day. And of course, again, we've given Dallas every indication that we back him. He knows an approximate budget that he's going to be working with. And, right now the focus is to get to the close season. Obviously, we've got a big match next Saturday, but understanding, as we've said all along, that our 3-year plan really doesn't start until next season. So again, we're extremely excited about the product we'll be able to put on the pitch and the experience that we'll be able to bring on match days, which could start, several hours even before kickoff. So we want to give folks a reason to come to the Lathwaite early and to stay late. And to do that, we're going to have some pretty creative and clever things to do that.
And can I just be clear? You said it would be difficult to improve the fan zone. What do you mean by the fan zone?
So the fan zone is an area that kind of just as you walk in. So you kind of walk in, and if you turn right, you see the club shop. So there's actually been a small expansion of that, which we're looking to add some food and beverage options to, along with some other things that we're still working on.
Okay, great. Thank you for that. I'm sure I'll be back to you later. Next question is for Douse and is from Gary Dadge. Douse, what do you think you can do to avoid the age-old issue that at this level, to avoid having the worst full-time players rather than trying to have the best part-time players?
We can never, in the last couple of years, we could never get the best part-time players because the best part-time players are having Waterloo, Ville and Dorking and things like that. We've got to try to get what we can. The thing is that we'll get, I'll have no excuses. We'll get the best we possibly can within the budget, which is a lot better than it was this season. So it's like the part-time player, it's one of them, it's great getting good part-time players, but the reason they're part-time because they've got other jobs as well. Something we found very hard this year, having 2 bubbles. Now, that's why I probably still got the same squad 8 or 9 as I had when I was in the Continent South. Now, my opinion, I think we need to change the whole mentality of the club and get the best full-time players. So, I think we can't compete with somebody paying 250 grand like Stockport, but we can get the best in the area around here and get the best part-time players in. Something that we're talking about now, something what we're planning now, and that's the secret of the whole thing. So it's not a problem about getting the best. I think we have got the best part-time players, to be honest, what we possibly can, in the area, to be honest, because we're only part-time club in the league, what we're in. So the whole change is getting the best full-time players. That's what we've got to try to do, instead of having the same team I've had for the last 2 years, to be honest.
Yeah, I'm sure you would also suggest that the budget will be sufficient, that you won't have the worst full-time players anyway.
Of course not. No, of course. And, yeah, I agree. You see, the squad, if you look at the squad, it looked like it's where you are. So if I go back a couple of years, I had a Hampton Richmond squad. What scored 101 goals in the league, 101. And the reason I done that because my Jamal Learn, Nick Kabamba, Brendan Keir, people like that. When I first took the working job, we were going away at the Billericay's scoring 4s and things like that. We weren't beating teams by 4s and 5s and 3s and all that. But the bottom line is that the higher you go, you still want to play that football, but you need a better caliber player to do it. As simple as that. So the bottom line is, we'll be competitive. I do believe we'll challenge next year up at the right end of the table. I do. In fact, I know we will. So it's just getting players. Because the problem we've got is, for example, in the last 3 years, when Gabby was full time where we are, and when Andy Limerick, whatever he was full time. When we went to part time, that was my choice at the time because I thought what we're seeing there, we'll try to get the best part time players. So all of a sudden we've got an opportunity going full time. So we're working on that, and we'll just get we'll hopefully get a better quality of player to make sure we challenge at the other end. The hardest bit of my job was, we've got a lad coming away from Torquay who I only see once a week. You see the learnies once a week because they stay out there pairing clubs. So you only work with 6 or 7 players. So I don't know how we'll do the best we can. We'll pattern the players and the style of football I want to play, or what I want to do. It's hard doing it with 6 or 7 players. You need, if we're saying somebody on loan, you want them to be with us all season, every single day. If we're going to Oxford and only seeing them once a week, or we're not seeing them till a match day, which happens, that's what I found difficult. Now I've got an opportunity to get 16 to 20 players hours every single day. There was main signings every single day. That's such an opportunity I wanted it.
And in that squad of 16 to 20, you envisage there still being loan players?
Of course, 100%. You get the best ones we can. The best ones we can. So if somebody comes out the league, like, for example, one of the lads from Oxford who we really like, obviously, we'll try to get him for a year, and see if that's our, whatever position that is, that's him, that's us for done for a year, and you build the best around it. I believe I've got the best goalkeeper in the league, he'll be with her, undoubtedly. And I think Loza will chip in as a winger. Not many people do in our leagues. He'll chip in with, say, 10, 11, 12 goals. We've got him tied up. I believe we've got the best left centre half on the top 5 in the league. So that's 3 already. So we can build from there, to be honest.
Okay, thank you. Rosemary, turning to you, please. A question from Ian Raisbeck. With this new stadium seemingly not going ahead now, what are the realistic ambitions for a club like Woking over the next 2 or 3 seasons?
Well, that's an interesting question. I think, first of all, we ought to say there is an appeal in on the decision by the Borough Council to turn the application down. That appeal will be now called in by the Secretary of State rather than on an inspector's decision. So we won't actually know the outcome of that for some months, actually, although the appeal itself is being heard in May. In terms of going forward, I think we're in a situation where we've had a year like no other year. And next year we'll be rebuilding, getting fans back in, Douse getting his full-time team going, John coming across to the country and starting to build the team forward. And I think the concentration of the club at the moment has to be on those 3 issues, making ourselves move forward next season. In terms of development, once John comes over here, we'll be sitting down, we'll be talking about what works for him in the commercial front, what we can do with what we've got, what we can move forward on. We're going to be looking at commercial opportunities, building partnerships with local businesses. And all of these things, hopefully, will lead forward to building whatever we need as a stadium. But it won't be a short-term solution. But the club's been here on the site for 100 years. If it's another 5 years to plan what's needed, the world won't collapse, and hopefully the stadium won't either.
Let's hope so. Okay, thank you. Back to Douse. Question from Harry Wheeler. With full-time players coming in next season, will the new budget allow us to be competitive in the top 7? And what type of players we'll be looking at? I assume the answer to that is good ones.
Right, cool. Good ones. And I believe, if you take the top 7 out, to be honest, I think we'll be competitive in the league. I've been given enough time to do it. So by the time we finish, the plan will be in the top 7. That's what I believe. And yes, a type of player, what people want to say, it's a winning type of mentality. We've got to get back in the team, which we've had for the last couple of years, bar the last couple of months, But I'm not daft there, where the type of player has got to work hard, it's got to excite, it's got to, you know, it's got to train together every single day. So the bottom line is we've just got to crack on with that. So I'll really look forward to that, you know, and working with better players will be fantastic, you know. And like at the minute, it doesn't seem like that because I'm not that, like, you know, you go along and people say, yeah, those figures, brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. When you lose games, you're not brilliant. You feel hopeless. You feel down about it all. Nobody takes defeat more than I do. But, you know, but I've got to get the, you know, it's only, you know, I get a lot of goodwill messages, but I get a lot of people saying, what's going on here and all that. That's a natural thing to do. But I believe in the next couple of years, we'll, you know, we've been very successful up to now, and we haven't been very successful in the last couple of months. I do think I've lost too many games. Even though I can cry about the budget, the part-time thing, I can cry wolf. We've lost too many games in the last couple of months we have. And that's got to be down to me. I'm a manager, and that's what the managers do. We've got to take the flak because I sign the players. Not once has Rosemary interfered in my time at the club. Not once has John. All have been supportive. My chairman's always been supportive of me. But the bottom line is, I know that by gambling, I've made some mistakes as well. I cannot make mistakes. Some of the mistakes I've made this season. I've got no excuse because I'm full time. I've got no excuse because the budget nearly doubles, to be honest. I've got no excuse because the fans are coming in. So I haven't got an excuse in the next couple of years, to be honest, where I've mainly had one because Thursday before the start of the season, I never had a team, and all of a sudden I only see players once a week, and we can't do a style of football, and we can't have a partner player. So a lot of things are off the cuff, and a lot of things why we're sitting too deep because we can't work on that, or we only talk about it. All the things I've got no excuse next season, but even though I can whack the old this season, but just get through the season, just out the bottom three, that was the thing, just do and get relegated, just make sure the club. I still made some mistakes on signings I have. I still make some mistakes where I gambled too many times, in my opinion, which I can't get out of. I still made mistakes at the start of the season, which I wish I never knew, to be honest. I wish I had because when the players were coming up, I was saying, I've got to have him, because I didn't know what to do. It was a pandemic going on. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what type of player I could get. I didn't know if the season was going to finish. When I saw this, I didn't know if the players wanted to be there because I had two different bubbles. And that's a lot for the take as a whole. And the new ground development was getting squashed to bits. The new owners coming in, if you like. So I thought it was a lot to take on, but I'm not going to make excuses that we should have done better this year, and that's going to come down to me. And it'll always be on my head football results. So I'm disappointed about a lot of results this season. And the only thing I can do is improve, and I make sure I improve next season, improve there, and have John's ambition as well of getting the Football League. If I don't do it, I won't be sitting here.
Okay, and I suppose it might be worth adding, in terms of answering Harry's question about what type of players we're looking at, that you now have your head of recruitment, Ben, helping out in exactly that area.
Yeah, of course. So what we've got on our computer now, if you like, at the ground, we've got 3 people in every position going around the board because we've never had that before. So we want wingers to run at people and be exciting and get balls in the box. We need a centre forward to score 15 to 20 goals because we don't get one. We won't be going any forward, to be honest, which we haven't got one this season who's done that yet. So that's what you want, defenders who can defend their own boxes. All the list what we've got, so we've got 3 players on every list we have, and that's the ones we tackle, like number 1, number 2, number 3. All the things we couldn't do in the last couple of years, we can do now. And I could do when I first got the job. I had a blank sheet of paper, and it was quite exciting, really. I didn't have anybody on the paper when I first got the job. All of a sudden, you know, you work your way through it. But at least we don't have to panic this year. We can actually have a look what we're looking at now to build for the future for next year. Excellent.
Back to you, John, please. Another question from Gary Dadge. Do you think that by publicly announcing a 3-year plan, you put unnecessary pressure on those involved? By all means, have that plan behind the scenes, but the football graveyard is littered with 3-year plans, and Woking already has 1 or 2 headstones in it. Is excellently expressed.
So a wise man once told me well, I was working on a construction project, how he dealt with the pressure of deadlines and meeting them and all the different things on his plate as someone who's building, you know, he's built 2 giant baseball stadiums and all sorts of stuff over at the university. He looked me right in the eye and said, John, stupid people don't feel pressure. And I looked at him, I said, Greg, you're really smart. He goes, yeah, well, so are you. But I can get away with it by saying, hey, maybe I'm a little stupid, but stupid people don't feel pressure. On a more serious note, it's about accountability. You know, not having, I mean, we've got a 3, a 5, and a 10-year plan. We shared our 3-year plan. And our 3-year plan is very basic. We need to become a viable and self-sufficient business enterprise. That's point one. So we have to create a business ambition that matches our football ambition. We've got to be able to generate the type of revenue that's going to support the type of budget that is going to get us a team that will challenge for the playoffs, to win the league, and then hopefully get into the football league by hook or by crook. The other thing that's really important as part of our 3-year plan is continue to build upon this supporter-centric culture. Look, I don't spend a ton of time on cards boards, but I know that the new badge was something that people were very, very passionate about. We understood that, we took that in, and that's why we made sure, I don't know that many clubs would be brave enough or foolish enough, depending on how you want to look at it, to actually have the supporters choose not only a kit, but a kit supplier. So those are big business decisions that we want to make sure that our supporters are involved in. The fact that we got over 1,000 votes, fairly evenly distributed between the two, with Adidas edging out by, I think it ended up being 6 points. But understanding that our supporters are at the core of what we do, our supporters need to be able to hold us accountable. And if we're not delivering on our promises, then we need to make adjustments moving forward. The third phase of our 3-year plan is to continue to build on the success of the amazing community work that this club does. And before this actual session started, we were talking about, and actually I think maybe into it as well, we were talking about Dallas and Josh Casey and a couple of members of staff strapping themselves into perfectly good airplanes and walking on the wings while they're flying. It's just really a great testament to see the things that and you talk about leading by example. Our gaffer, our chairman, our club is so committed to that community, because if not for the community, we don't have a club. So making sure that we continue to focus on the community and continue to serve the club and the community as servant leaders. We touched on it earlier, but again, enhancing the match day experience, having listening sessions, what things people like, what things people don't like. Are we going to be able to do everything? No. But the more information we know, the more we can help curate and cultivate, a bespoke experience for everybody. Because there are different types of supporters. We've got our diehard supporters that are going to come out, win or lose or draw. That'll either give Dow stick or give him praise, and that's one big part of our supporter base and our supporter culture. We've also got casual fans. We've got the floaters that'll float between our friends just to the south and us, depending on who's playing at home, depending on performance. But we've also got this great opportunity to expand our fan base, being clever with marketing. And that's something, again, I don't think my CV has ever been posted anywhere, but, at my core, I am a marketing person. My degree is in marketing. I teach marketing at one of the best sport management and sports science schools in the world. According to some study, I didn't just make that up. You can look it up. But really, understanding that marketing is the core of what we do, because marketing will do all the things that we want to do. We're talking about building a sustainable business model. Marketing helps grow ticket sales. Now, in conjunction with that, there's also the performance on the pitch. There are so many factors that revolve around what our core is. But with marketing at our core, we bring in more people. We're going to be playing exciting football. As more people come into the ground, the more other opportunities there are, whether they're for bar takings or food and beverage, or food and beverage generally, shop sales, having expanded lines in the shop. These are all ways for us to, as they say, for our business to be able to wash its own face. So I guess kind of the last point, is for us, we want to create an atmosphere where people will focus on the experience, and understanding that, some of the things that we've talked about is this grand fan zone concept, which we'll be introducing at some point during the close season, will provide people, fans of all ages, diehard fans, casual fans, our next generation of fans, with all sorts of different access that they just haven't been able to have before. So I'll take that back to the beginning and say, is it a bad idea to throw out a 3-year plan? I think it's actually a good idea, because we want to be held accountable. Douse wants to be held accountable. The board wants to be held accountable, and understand that we're here for all the same reason. We're here because we're passionate. We're here because of this club. And without all of you, there isn't a club. So we want to be held accountable. Look, as far as the football graveyards, I remember I sat down with Martin Tyler. Gosh, I guess it was back in October after I'd cleared my isolation. And, we're a bunch of folks at the table, and Martin just leans over and says, "So I understand your plan, but what happens if we get relegated?" And I said, "Well, then we have to win twice." Plans are fluid. Plans have got to be, flexible, and we have to adapt to the current environments. But we are setting the tone and the goal of being a self-sufficient, fan-centric football club, and that's job one. And if we're not doing our jobs, we need to be held accountable for that, and we need to do better. But that's really where it starts and ends. I think it's important for goals, because we've got to have goals that are attainable. We've got to have goals as a staff, as a club, as a first team, to be able to achieve and strive to meet or exceed.
Okay.
So thank you for coming to my TED Talk.
Sorry. Yeah, no one, I think, can doubt your considerable experience and success in doing what you've done up to now, which you might think would fit in particularly well with joining up with Woking Football Club, because it's all about what you might call lower levels of professional sport. But I assume you're very confident that all of the skills and ideas that you have will be very translatable, bearing in mind that the US and the UK are supposed to be two countries divided by a common language.
Yeah, I think, having been to as many football matches as I have been over the last 5 years, I understand that there's a massive difference in culture between English football and frankly, anything else. It's different. It's got its own life. It's very tribal. There's a lot of customs that are built into the culture, and new and innovative ideas aren't going to change a whole lot of that, right? Because people generally, we're tribal in nature. We want to do the things that we're used to. If we're going to a match and we've always gone to the same pub and sat with the same people, there are people that frankly will continue to do that no matter how much we do, and that's okay. What we want to do is create an atmosphere that will encourage people to spend that time before the match and after the match at the ground, and try and just, again, introduce new ideas. Some will work, some won't. But again, we understand enough, and I've lived it for the last 5 years. I would say 100 matches up and down the country since 2016, and it's got a vibe unlike anything I've ever attended. 30 years in baseball, I can't even count how many games that is, 21,000 baseball games or whatever it is. And I've learned more, in non-league football, more bouncing around League One with I don't think it's a secret that, I've got very good friends at AFC Wimbledon. I've been there with them on that, when they have engineered, which they've had to do and will have to do again, these great escapes over the last few years. And I've been at these pivotal games, which tend to happen in April in the past. whether that's the last minute penalty at Walsall or all these other things to keep them up. I understand how much it means, because you can't, if you're part of the club, you can't discount how much that means to people. So we get that. You know, Douse will tell you, we talk after every game. You know, there's good and bad with everything, but you know, you have to, I guess the best way to put it, I've never been depressed after I lost a baseball game. Because you know what, there's another one the next day and the day after that. We play a 140 game season. We might win, we might not win, but at the end of the day, the next season we start in the exact same place. Every win and loss in the conference means something. Every win in the FA Trophy means something. Next Saturday means something. You know, if we execute and we have the blessing to go and as Douse, you know, it has talked about before, we are blessed with the opportunity to put out our best 11 at Wembley in 2 months' time. I mean, those are things that everyone deserves that. Our supporters deserve that experience. Our players deserve that experience. Our manager, our backroom staff, everyone connected to this club deserves that experience. And understanding that, you know, with one thing about football that's very apparent, and I'm sorry if I'm going off on all these tangents, but it kind of will set the tone. Football is really nostalgic. In fact, it's inherently nostalgic. Everyone on this call will remember the first football match they went to. They'll remember how it made them feel. They may not remember, if they were young, who won, who scored the winning goal. But what they'll do is they'll remember that experience. And those types of memories, especially when you're young and you have those impressionable moments early on, they stay with you for the rest of your life. And that's a very powerful emotional backdrop for us to build on, not just for our supporters that are coming now, good, bad, good times and bad times, or streaming right now. This is also talking about that next generation of fans and giving them that first experience at the Lathwaite that they will carry with them for the rest of their lives.
Thank you. I want to now turn to Rupert with a question from Lewis Hannon. And the question reads, don't shoot the messenger. Is next season our best chance to get promoted in years with us turning full time?
Thank you, David. Before I answer that question, I, on behalf of the Trust, I'd just like to thank everybody who's contributed and continues to contribute to boost the budget. As you all know, that money goes towards Douse's playing fund. Those also that have supported the 400 Club and the online Gold Rush sales, which, although not as much as previous years, we're still selling Gold Rush tickets for the halftime draw, the matches. A big thank you also to the match day volunteers, because all the match day volunteers save the club a lot of money, and it's us, the fans, that can help the club build on that foundation. The question, I'm not sure. I think that from my footballing experience, that it probably will be a couple of 3 years before the development of the team and the club as a whole will provide Douse with that excellent track record to be able to hopefully move up to the AFL, at least the playoffs, which of course is our desire. It takes a little while for things to gel. And I think season 1 might be a little optimistic, but like everyone else, be absolutely delighted if at this time next year, we're heading towards the top of the table and we're saying, could we make the playoffs or not? That's every supporter's dream. And I hope we make it, but I think it may be possibly a little too soon, but be delighted, as I say, if proved wrong.
Good answer, thank you. The next question was submitted by George Simon. George, I hope you won't mind if I don't put this question because it's been answered already. The question was, to Douse, and how many players would you like to keep next? Oh, I take all that back. My apologies all round, because I misread the question. Douse, the question says, how many players would you like to keep next season from this season's squad? I thought it was how many players would there be in next season's squad? And you've already told us it's 16 to 20. So which ones do you want to keep from this year? George wants to know.
Well, it's difficult. We've still got another 19 games to play. It'll probably be wrong of me to say who the plans are to keep and who not to keep, to be honest, at this time. Good question, yeah. All I do know is that we will do a deal with Rossi. That'll be in the bag, to be honest. Talks have gone very well. And he'll not leave. He loves the club, Rossi. He has a young kid. Done his work experience at the ground as well, Rossi. Model professional, what he does in the top 3 keepers in the league. Mr. De Harva's here anywhere, Lozza's here anywhere, and at this minute is a blank sheet of paper. What we're doing, we're talking to Oxford about Lofthouse, about extending that, which I believe we can next season as well. So that's 4 at the minute, and that's all I can say, David, at the minute. That's before to go into next season. And the lads have got 15, 16, semi-final, final, to see if we can win things as well, some big games. And that's what I'm looking at the minute. So at the minute, we've got 4.
Okay, thank you.
Because Rossi will stay, so don't worry about that. He'll be good.
That's good news. Back to John with a slightly more tongue-in-cheek question this time from David Potter, who says, John, for some unknown reason, you've openly admitted to being a Spurs fan. I forgive you, but can you please clarify that you aren't against winning silverware? This policy has been adopted at Spurs, but we actually like winning things at Woking. A good one.
Good question, mate.
You know, I'll tell you in a heartbeat that the FA trophy would mean more than Spurs putting anything else in their trophy cabinet. It just means more. So no, I'm absolutely not against winning silverware. In fact, I'm making the well-educated choice. My son has a football match up, I don't know, somewhere in Virginia with a similar kickoff time to Spurs, and I will be watching the Randolph College Wildcats taking on some other school as opposed to watching Spurs today. So
good for you.
Yeah, no, I'm obviously a big fan of silverware, and you know that it. Yes, and thank you for at least the forgiveness, David. That was very kind of you on the front end. I know it's not a popular subject with our
Thank
club.
you. Thank you very much. That was a great question, David. Thank you. George Burnett. George, I've already spoken to briefly before we started and said to him that he's got the short straw today because he's got Alan Barnes's question. And it reads, we have been in similar positions before. What makes this one different? Best of luck with that, George.
Thank you, David. That's very kind of you. I don't think I actually agree with that, in the sense that I don't think there's been a time in my lifetime when we've had a pandemic, which means our fans can't actually come and attend matches. So I think the current situation is unique. It's not a similar position at all. And I think really the other thing is we don't know that it's a short-term situation. We don't know that next season is going to start and everything will be completely back to normal. Who knows what's going to happen? If we'd gone back a year, would we think we were in this situation in 12 months' time? So it is a difficult situation, and that reflects itself, I think, in other things. We've been around for 134 years at Woking Football Club, and we've had ups and downs and panics and crises, etc. And I think that's probably what Alan's thinking of. But I think if you take the background, during that time, we've actually disposed of all our assets. So we've gone from being a club which actually owned its ground, it owned plenty of land surrounding the ground, etc., etc. It got income from people renting that land. And we now have virtually nothing. We're just a club that exists, and we have to think very carefully about financial viability and how to maintain that in a pandemic. And also move, as John said, to how we become viable and self-sufficient. So I think if you're under the impression that, yeah, we have ups and downs, but it'll all go on as before if we don't do anything. That wouldn't be how I see the situation at all. As you know, I've only been on the board since August, because I took over from Ian Nicholson, who did such a sterling job for so many years. I've been staggered by the amount of work that's required to keep this club running. This isn't a little sports club or a little organisation with a few keen people. It's a quite significant business which requires a lot of management, and it also requires a lot of quick decisions. For example, dealing with the COVID situation, we had to find a COVID officer who knew what he was doing, and that situation has been magnified in other parts of the club as well. So I think the important thing from my point of view is, how do we maintain financial viability so we can go into next season in a strong position? And of course, one of the problems is financial viability usually goes with good performance on the pitch. Not quite the same at the moment, actually, because obviously with fans not being able to physically come, we have to rely on the streaming income. But I think probably the investment which John is bringing to the club in terms of the team should put us in a good position. Nobody can guarantee anything with regard to investing into a team's performance, but certainly it should give us a really good chance with Doust in charge to move forward and hopefully start, dare I suggest, doing a Sutton United in the nicest possible way. Who would have thought Sutton would be top of the league at this time at the beginning of the season? Where you know, Sutton United above the usual favourites like Notts County and Chesterfield and all the ex-league teams. Very interesting. The future of the stadium itself is on ice now, really, in my view, for about 2 or 3 years, as Rosemary's intimated. So we have to concentrate on what we have at the moment and making the product better, which is exactly what John talked about. And we need to generate more fans through the match experience, and indeed seeking commercial partnerships to try and bring in more funding from outside the club. Our supporters are very generous and our sponsors are generous, but there's a limit to how much money we can raise from them. And we really have to start looking further afield to try and bring funding in. So in short, I don't think we've been in a similar position before. I think those are the differences that I've pointed out, but I'm quite confident that we're all going to do our damnedest to see our way to a brighter future.
Excellent. Well, very wise words there from George. And I have to take back what I said at the beginning. That was obviously a brilliant question by Alan Barnes, because it elicited such a superb response, much to my surprise, in a way. I don't mean that as it sounds, George, I promise. Let's move to Douse again, please. A very specific question this time from Simon Bassett, and it reads, what's happened to Dave Tarpey, who's not even making the 16, even though we're playing Saturday, Tuesday, Saturday? Is it form, injury, a falling out with the manager, or is it due to his line of work and not wanting to risk COVID?
The last one, great lad, talks, brilliant. Still speak to him quite often. We'd love to take him with Wembley as part of the group before he does continue being a part-time footballer. Can't meet a better lad, done a good job for us, great kid. It started off when he couldn't play on the Ashford to he couldn't. Then we started seeing that most of the lads were buying into training 2 mornings a week instead of 2 nights, because it was tiring the lads out on nights and coming all the way on a Thursday, going back and trying to come again on the Saturday to play. So we had a chat and we said we'll train in the mornings, and just 2 mornings a week. It's 1 morning a week at the minute, but he can't do that. So what a sensible chat. And he said, listen, I'm not going to be here next season anyway. He's got his work. He can't make any training. He can't make any training sessions. He can't play games. He can't just come for games only. So what a sensible chat about. And he said that's the best way to go. So he's he always been part of our thoughts here. He's a great lad. Love him to bits at him, and even have a laugh with him now on the phone. But it was the right decision for him, because what he did do, he left his full-time job to go to Barnet. and he wasn't willing to do that again because he's 31 now, 32, and his future's working, not playing football. So it was just a sensible chat we had between the two, where, you know, we've cut the lanes, but a great character and a great lad who very much was part of what we've done the last couple of years here. And I wish, you know, I had him a couple of years earlier when he could have been full time and stuff, because he's a good player as well. Just one of them things, that's all. But great character around the dressing room as well. So we miss him in the dressing room as well. So I do miss Tops.
So is he actually still a member of Woking Football Club, so to speak, or is his contract finished? Or
we just got agreement on it. That's all. Yeah, we just got agreement.
Okay.
But, you know, it's fine. Everything's fine with Tops. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Back to John for the final time for you, John. Question from Gary Dadge again. What is your own ambition for the redevelopment of the ground? Clearly, there are current issues the club has to overcome, but without it, surely any significant progression off the field is limited.
Well, I think, you know, we have to see how things play out. You know, our ambition with coming in and becoming shareholders of this club had nothing to do with the success or failure of the planning application. As Rosemary has mentioned, you know, an appeal's been submitted. It may be months before we find anything. I'm from the school that says let's not worry about it until it's time to worry about it. You know, of course, obviously, I've got visions in my head. I've been, you know, fortunate enough to have a career that's built 2 baseball grounds. But right now, you know, we focus on what we can focus on, which is, you know, enhancing the experience, making the most of what we have at the Lathwaite, and keeping it interesting. And again, but always have an eye on the future, whatever that may hold.
Great, thank you. Now back to Douse again for the final time.
Okay.
Question from Bill Lines.
Yeah.
With the team going full-time next season, will players who are important players for this part-time team be able to keep playing even if they're not able to become full-time players? My example is Josh Casey, as I don't think he'll be giving up his job to be a full-time player, but he's an important cog in our team. So I think that could be summarised by saying, will you be prepared to have part-time players in next season's squad?
Not really, no. I think the question of if it's a one-off thing for something, maybe, but no. I think if we're going to do it, let's do it full-time. Let's do it right. Let's get that. He has me pointing the thing out that I can't do a partner play, or I can't do a corner free kick because the part-time players. I've got no excuse next season because I've got them every day. So I want everybody there every single day. And us, like, for example, we beat Hartlepool 3-0 at their place. Their manager dragged him in on a Sunday because he can. And that's the thing I want. I want to try to have a whole where we can do players every single day and work on back fours, midfielders, just like everybody else does in the league. And that's what we want to do here, you know. So I'm really looking forward to doing it. And obviously, hopefully Saturday brings good news as well. You know, I'm desperate to do well for the club. The only club I've ever want to manage, to be honest. It'll not last forever. We know that. But I've been desperate to do well here. Like, you know, I've had a massive passion to manage working. I want to be the bloke who take on obviously win a cup and take on a league. Just had a bit of a bad time this year, I suppose, like we all have. You know, so I've got to front that. A lot of frustrated people out there. I'm one of them as well. Some of the football this season hasn't been good enough, to be honest. I've got to take responsibility for that. But getting a budget, wanting to compete and getting players I want to sign, I've got obviously the trust is in us from the top, which is great. But I've got to do that. I've got to make sure that we pay their faith in me. And I'm really looking forward to the challenge. But this is, listen, all this will not come there. Like, I want to do the wing walks, I want to do the charity stuff, but I've got to win football matches in the next couple of years. I've got to make sure we do that.
Okay, and just to be clear, while you're ruling out pretty much the prospect of having part-time players on contract next season, you're not averse to someone who is currently a part-time player going full-time?
No. The problem is the question I mean to be blunt about. I won't be taking a part-time player. I want a full-time player.
No,
of course. And we will go full-time all the way through. And if somebody like Casey or whoever I'm going to mention as a name cannot make the jump to full-time, then he won't be with for next year. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, understood. But equally, if someone like Casey or any of the other part-timers who actually have a full-time job, if they are able to make the jump to full-time football, then they've got a chance.
Yeah, 100%. Absolutely 100%. We've just got to be careful, like everybody else in life, like Tops, who give up a good job to go to Barnet and do his knee, and we've got to look on both sides of the fence, which I feel as though the players I've got at the minute are, because I'm weighing things up as a manager. I'm sure the club are as well. They're looking at things at the minute, especially with new relegation. Right? They're thinking, well, you know, does the manager want us? You know, it's too early to say about that at the minute. Can we go to Wembley? It'll be on their minds as well. Also, you know, is it worth it? Because if you've got good jobs, some of my lads have got good jobs. So even I might want to keep one, you might say, hold on a minute, I'm not giving up that for that. That's got to come in as well. I can't do much about that. All I can do is get Saturday and hopefully get the final of the cup and plan from there with players. If we, you know, it's like anything else with players who be in my cup of me saying, I'm desperate to leave my job and I want to be a professional footballer, and that's the conversation I've got to have. The only ones at the minute who would definitely be doing it is the three I mentioned, with Rossi, who will definitely do it. Musa's definitely do it, and Lossa's definitely do it, and hopefully Lofthouse as well. So that's the four I've mentioned at the minute. Everything else is going forward in talks, you know.
Okay, thank you very much. That's clear now. Final question, back to Rosemary, top and tail. Slightly tongue-in-cheek, I think. Question from Ian Raisbeck again. If Woking do gain promotion, I assume he means to the Football League, where would you plan to site a statue of Dabs?
There's lots of answers I could give to that. First of all, I'd say
She'll put it in the toilet.
I wouldn't dream of saying that, Douse. Of course, I would also say that I think if we were going to do a statue to Douse, we should consider one to Jeff Chappell anyway. Whereas to the sighting, well, it's very kind of Ian to offer to pay for it. And I think Mona's Corner is the obvious place to site it myself.
Put it down, Blackies.
Yeah. Well, there was a suggestion from the household the bar was a good idea, but I felt Mona's Corner where everyone could see it.
Yeah.
Good answer. Right. Well, we've reached the end of the submitted questions, for which thanks to all the people who sent them in, and thanks very much to all the panel members for answering.